What's up, everybody? My name is Brad, and welcome to week 20 of the book report. How you doing? How you been? Doing good? That's good. I'm doing good as well. Thank you for asking. I don't know. My voice sounds really weird. I apologize if it sounds weird. It sounds weird to me. It might not to you all. Still got the sinuses and stuff going on. But that's neither here nor there. We're here to talk about some books. I finished up 2 books this week, so we're going to go ahead and dive right into those. This one I had started last week, talked about it some, but I finished it up. And that is, get the dust jacket on there. That is Holly by Stephen King. This is one of his newer books. Holly-centric story, Holly Gibney story, like the title suggests. I ended up really liking it. I was kind of trepidatious at the beginning, as I talked about last week. I won't go into it too much, but he sticks a lot of politics into this book, which I wasn't too fond of. A lot of COVID stuff, a lot of presidential Trump stuff and everything, being against that, which, that's his opinion. That's cool and everything. I don't mind politics in books, but the beginning of the book, especially all the MAGA Trump stuff, I feel like every other chapter, it was just, that's all he was talking about. And it kind of got a bit of annoying and pulled me out of the story some. But as the story progressed, that kind of lessened to where I was able to enjoy it much more. And there's, I don't know, the quote on the back here, I just read it. I could never let Holly Gibney go. She was supposed to be a walk-on character in Mr. Mercedes, and she just stole the book and stole my heart. Holly is all her. So yeah, this is about Holly Gibney. She's been in the Bill Hodges trilogy, so Mr. Mercedes, Finders Keepers, End of Watch. She was in The Outsider. She has her own little kind of novella in the If It Bleeds collection, and then this is her first full-on novel where it's really, like it says, it's all about her. Because in the other one, she was kind of a bit player and then got more and more important. And even in If It Bleeds, I think like Jerome and Barbara and Pete, they were kind of all, as memory serves, helping her in the investigation. This one's more, solely her. It's COVID going on in the current times, so everyone's separated, and, Jerome's off doing his own thing. I don't think he was ever on screen. Barbara wasn't on screen till the end, and Pete was sick with COVID. So it really was kind of Holly doing this investigation on her own. And I really liked it. I do like Holly Gibney as a character. If you don't like her as a character, then you probably won't like this book, because it really is all about her. But I really enjoyed it. It kind of flashes back and forth. We have stuff starting in, I think, like 2012, maybe 2012, 2015, somewhere in there is kind of the oldest parts, where people have been disappearing, like one every couple years or so, someone disappears. So it like jumps from like 2012 to like 2015, 2018, 2021, and up to which is current 2021 in the book. And Holly's hired as a private investigator to investigate the disappearance of a young girl. She's like 21, 22 years old. Her mom hires Holly because she just disappeared kind of off the face of the earth. No one really knows what happened. And in doing that investigation, Holly uncovers all these other missing people and kind of threads it all together to who's really doing it and who's going and what's going on. We as the reader know more about it than Holly does, because there's sections of the book where we are in the perpetrator's perspective and what they are doing and why they're doing it and stuff. I don't want to give anything away, who it is or why they're doing what they're doing, but it was a much different sort of bad guy, villain, whatever you want to call it, than I think Stephen King usually writes, which was cool and refreshing. I will say there's nothing supernatural in this book. It does stay very much in line with Mr. Mercedes and Finders Keepers. No supernatural stuff, just, your homegrown bad people. And then Holly doing the investigation about these missing people and tying it all together. I really liked it. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Stephen King's newest book comes out not this Tuesday, but the next Tuesday, I believe, on like the 27th. It's called Never Flinch, and that is also a Holly Gibney story. And I think once I get that in, I've pre-ordered it, I think I'll dive right into that one, because I did, other than the political stuff, set that all aside, I did really quite enjoy this book. Much more than I was expecting to, based on how it kind of started out. But I finished up Holly by Stephen King, another missing person murder mystery thing with Holly. Was quite fun, and I did enjoy it. And then after that, so last week I had started, I'll go ahead and pull it up, the Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. I read the first chapter last week. I didn't pick it up again this week because instead I picked up just not off of a whim because I'd planned to read this before, but it was sitting on my book cart. I finished up Holly. I picked it up, read the first couple pages, and then I couldn't put it down. I read it from cover to cover. This is The Great Train Robbery by Michael Crichton. I had wanted to read more Michael Crichton books this year. I did a video early in the year of Michael Crichton, where I wanted to read as many of his books that I owned as I could this year. I did the same thing last year for Robert McCammon. I've read 3 Michael Crichton books this year. This is my 3rd one. I've read Jurassic Park, The Lost World, and now The Great Train Robbery. And this one was also a lot of fun. The cover is really falling apart in it. So I think this chunk just fell out when I picked it up a second ago. This one was a lot of fun. It's set in Victorian times, so like the early 1850s in England, and it, like the title suggests, it is about a train robbery. It's very much kind of like Ocean's 11 set in England in that time period, and then instead of trying to rob the casino, they are trying to rob gold bullion off of this train. And I dug it. I thought it was pretty good. I just finished it earlier, so my thoughts are kind of still coalescing about it, but I did like it. It was pretty cool. If you don't like I feel like Crichton does this in Jurassic Park and stuff too. There it was more scientific kind of exposition, sort of historical exposition. If that's maybe not your thing, this might not be for you, but I enjoyed it because I like history and learning about stuff. There might be a couple paragraphs where he just goes off into explaining the economy in Victorian England and all the different railways they built at the time and the war they were in, all that kind of stuff. It all does kind of tie into the plot some way, shape, or form, but he does kind of go on that, the fact-finding exposition, just, explaining things from history. I enjoyed it. Other people might not like those aspects of it. But other than that, it was pretty cool. It's, like I said, like Ocean's 11, where you have all these different people and all these skills where they're being hired to, crack the safe, lockpick the safe, or they're small enough where they can squeeze into small areas, or, the pretty lady who dresses up and acts out different roles, to guise people, to trick people, stuff like that. The big brawler guy who's, the muscle, and then the criminal mastermind behind it all. His name was Edward Pierce. We believe his name was Edward Pierce. He went by different names, and how all those things come together. And of course, something always goes wrong along the way in these kind of heists, and they have to, figure it out on the fly. It was pretty fun. It was interesting. Learned some things about Victorian England. This is The Great Train Robbery by Michael Crichton. I dug it, and definitely looking forward to reading some more Crichton throughout the rest of this year. Sorry about the cut. I had to get up and get a drink. My throat's getting scratchy. I was about to start coughing, and no one wanted to hear that. But that's everything I've read. What am I currently reading? So I'll mention it quick because I don't think I listened to it at all this week. I'm still listening to The Two Towers on audiobook by J.R.R. Tolkien. I think I'm like 7 or 8 hours into that. But again, I don't think I listened to it at all this week. I just wasn't in the audiobook mood. Previously mentioned, I read the first chapter of The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. I am going to continue this one. I did enjoy the first chapter, but I'm not in the mood for it right now. I'm very much in a mood reading mode this year, allowing myself to be a mood reader and not reading what I just had planned. And I think that's been really good for my reading this year. I've already read 20 books, and all of last year I think I read 28. So not even halfway through the year yet, and I'm already almost surpassed what I read last year. So I'm going to continue on with mood reading. Not in the mood for it right now, but definitely going to come back to it. I'm not really in the mood for this either, but I do want to kind of check it off and just to say I've finished it. I started this, I think in April. I read over half of it, and it kind of put me in a bit of a slump, but I've got like 150 pages left. I just want to knock it out and get done with it. That is Circe by Madeline Miller. It's not bad. Again, I don't think I was just in the mood for it when I was reading it, and it kind of put me in a bit of a slump. But I do want to finish this one off just so I can say I'm done, because I only have about 150 pages left. But what I think I am definitely going to be diving into next, this one's kind of calling my name. I want to read The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. This is his newest book. It just came out. Big fantasy book. I think he normally writes grimdark. I might be mistaken. I don't know a ton about Joe Abercrombie. I've never read his work before, but I think he writes grimdark fantasy. This just says it's epic fantasy. I've been seeing a lot of people talking about this book over the last week, and it sounds awesome, and it definitely sounds like what I'm in the mood for. Some epic, high adventure and high fantasy. I think this one's dealing a lot with like the undead and stuff. I think there's necromancers in here, and there's a werewolf on the inside cover and things like that. So I think this is what I'm diving into next, later on today. That is The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. Real excited about that one. So going to try to start The Devils. I want to finish up Cersei. I don't know when I'll come back to the Buffalo Hunter, but definitely we'll come back to that one. And then next Tuesday, depending on where I'm at with my current books, I'll probably dive into Never Flinch by Stephen King. That's another thing I've kind of changed up this year reading wise, is really sticking with one physical book at a time. And finishing it up. There's been some times occasionally when I haven't done that, but for the most part, I've started a book and finished it before going on to another book. And I think that's also really helped out my reading this year as well. But other than that, I think that's all I got for you guys today. I can feel my throat is I'm about to start coughing again, so I'm going to wrap it up. But let me know down in the comments what you've been reading this week as well. And if you've read anything I've talked about, let me know down in the comments. But that's all I've got for you guys today. So appreciate you hanging out, spending your time with me today. Again, my name is Brad, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.